I used to think the world was fair, that hard work and determination would always be enough. I was raised to believe in kindness, respect, and treating everyone equally, regardless of their race, gender, or background. But life has a way of testing your values. And for me, it happened during one of the most difficult times of my life. It all started when I got my first job after college. I was hired as a marketing assistant at a small but growing company in the city. The office was sleek and modern, filled with creative energy. I was excited to learn and grow in my career, and I was ready to give it my all. My boss, Susan, seemed professional at first. She was a middle-aged woman with sharp features and a no-nonsense attitude. She ran the department like a tight ship, and I respected that, at least initially. However, it didn't take long for me to notice that Susan treated me differently from my colleagues. At first, it was subtle. She would interrupt me during meetings or dismiss my ideas without really listening. But as time went on, her bias became more obvious. She would single me out for menial tasks that weren't part of my role, like fetching coffee or organizing files. My coworkers noticed too, and would sometimes step in to help, but Susan's favoritism toward others, and her coldness toward me, was undeniable. One day, during a team meeting, I presented a marketing proposal I had spent weeks working on. I was proud of it. The research was thorough, the ideas innovative. As I spoke, Susan's face remained blank, but when another colleague, a white coworker, added a minor suggestion, Susan lit up with enthusiasm. "That's exactly what we need," she said, giving him full credit for the idea. After the meeting, I stayed behind to talk to her. "Susan, I couldn't help but notice you didn't address my proposal directly. Was there something I could improve on?" I asked, trying to keep my tone professional. She sighed and looked at me with barely concealed irritation. "Look, Caleb, I just don't think you're quite there yet. Maybe you should focus on learning from your peers before trying to take the lead." Her words stung, but what hurt more was the dismissiveness in her tone. It felt personal. Over time, it became clear that no matter how hard I worked or how good my ideas were, Susan would never see me as her equal. I knew it wasn't about my skills or effort, it was about who I was and the color of my skin. The breaking point came about 6 months later. One afternoon, Susan called me into her office. She closed the door and sat down with a smug expression on her face. "Caleb, we're making some changes around here," she began. "Unfortunately, we've decided to let you go. It's just not working out." I was stunned. "But why? My performance reviews have been positive and I've met all my targets." She shrugged, her tone indifferent. "It's just not a good fit. I'm sure you'll find something more suited to your skills." I could see through her words. This wasn't about my performance, it was about her prejudice. But arguing wouldn't change her mind, and I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me upset. I left that office with my dignity intact, but inside, I was angry, hurt, and unsure of what to do next. Losing that job turned my life upside down. Bills piled up, and I had to move out of my apartment to stay with a friend while I looked for work. Despite the setbacks, I refused to let Susan's actions define me. I took on freelance gigs, networked tirelessly, and eventually landed a job at a real estate investment firm. It wasn't the career path I had planned, but I discovered I had a knack for it. Over the years, I worked my way up, learning everything I could about the industry. By the time I was in my early 30s, I had built a small portfolio of rental properties. It was a proud moment when I purchased my first apartment complex, a modest but well-maintained building in the same city where I'd started my career. Little did I know, fate had something unexpected in store for me. One day, as I was reviewing new tenant applications for the building, a familiar name caught my eye: Susan Barrett. My heart skipped a beat. Could it be the same Susan who had fired me all those years ago? I looked at the attached documents, and there was no doubt. It was her. The photo on her ID showed the same sharp features, though she looked a bit older and more tired than I remembered. The application explained that she had recently gone through a divorce and was downsizing. She listed her current job as consultant, though a quick online search revealed that her career had taken a downward turn. Part of me felt a flicker of satisfaction at the irony. This woman, who once dismissed me as unworthy, was now hoping to rent an apartment from me. But another part of me felt conflicted. I wasn't the kind of person to kick someone when they were down, even if they had wronged me. After some thought, I approved her application. I wanted to see how this would play out. The day Susan came to sign the lease, I made sure to be there. When she walked into the leasing office, she barely glanced at me, assuming I was just another employee. But when I introduced myself as the landlord, her expression froze. "Caleb," she said, her voice uncertain. "Yes," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "It's been a while." Her face turned pale as recognition dawned. She stammered something about how unexpected this was, but I didn't let her off the hook. "I remember working for you," I said calmly. "I also remember being fired without a valid reason." She shifted uncomfortably. "That was a long time ago," she said, avoiding my gaze. "I didn't mean anything personal," I smiled, though it didn't reach my eyes. It felt personal at the time. "But don't worry, I'm not here to hold grudges, just here to run a business." Over the next few months, Susan kept a low profile. She paid her rent on time and avoided me whenever possible. But one day, she ran into trouble. She fell behind on her rent, and the office manager informed me that she had requested a payment extension. When I went to discuss it with her, she was visibly nervous. "I just need a little more time," she said. "Things have been difficult." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I saw not my old boss but a person who was struggling. Life had humbled her in ways I couldn't have imagined back when she was sitting behind her desk, firing me without a second thought. "Okay," I said finally. "I'll give you an extension. But Susan, I hope you've learned that how you treat people matters. You never know who they might become, or how your paths might cross again." Her eyes filled with tears and she nodded. "I have," she whispered. "I truly have." From that moment on, something shifted. Susan began to treat me with genuine respect, and over time we had a few conversations that felt honest and heartfelt. She even admitted that she had been unfair to me back then, blaming her behavior on her own insecurities and biases. Hearing her apology didn't erase the pain she had caused, but it did give me a sense of closure. Looking back, I realized that losing that job was the push I needed to find my true path. It taught me resilience, determination, and the importance of treating everyone with dignity. And while Susan's regret couldn't undo the past, it was a reminder that people can change, sometimes when life forces them to see the consequences of their actions. In the end, I didn't just succeed despite her. I succeeded because I chose to rise above her prejudice. And that, to me, was the greatest victory of all. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, we'd love your support. Like this video if it moved you, and help us reach more people who could benefit from the message. Comment below and let us know your thoughts. Your perspective matters. Share this video with friends and family so we can spread this important message. Subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming stories. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue creating content that makes a difference. Thank you for being a part of this community.